welcome to worship at First Unitarian Church of Rochester, New York. Our opening hymn, Listen, Open, Serve, is based on the mission, values, and ends of our church community. The text was written by the Crescendo Fund Committee, and the tune is by Sarah Davis, the winner of the Crescendo Fund Hymn Competition. Please join me in singing Listen, Open, Serve.
Listen to all hearts and minds, experiences of all kinds. Through inquiry we find what's true, as hard as it can be to do. Come, listen, open, serve with me together in community. Our hearts are open to be changed by new perspectives, rearrange success and blunder, light our way, transformed by wonder every day. Come, listen, open, serve with me together in community. In partnership we now commit to humble service. We admit that justice starts with you and me. Unlearning white supremacy. Come, listen, open, serve with me together in community.
Welcome to First Unitarian's virtual service. We are so happy that you are here with us today. Our mission here at First Unitarian is through spiritual connection and community. We listen deeply to others and ourselves, open to wonder and transformation, and serve together with love and humility. I'm Shannon Foose, Membership Coordinator, and today leading our worship is Reverend Barbara and Jillian, Tom Snell, Melissa Boyack, Arson, and Brock, and we have Stacy Watson. Behind the scenes, we always have our ushers and tech help making everything run smoothly. To access our captions today, please look at the left top hand corner, and under live, you will find the link. After our opening words, our chalice lighting words, we will have a short video by Harley Pinto, who will be sharing with us about our UU Eco Challenge. Let's take a breath together as we settle into this sacred space and time, and please join me in reading our chalice lighting words. May the flame we now kindle inspire us to use our power to heal with love, to help with compassion, to bless with joy, and to seek liberation and the fullness of community.
Hello everyone, my name is Harley Pinto. I'd like to send out a huge thank you to everyone who took part in our First Unitarian Community Drawdown Eco Challenge. Over the past 6 weeks, we have accomplished amazing things together. As an organization, we reached second place overall in the nationwide Drawdown Eco Challenge, with a stunning total of 31,312 points, earned by 167 participants across 22 teams. Additionally, we have saved 2,000 gallons of water, 6,000 pounds of carbon dioxide, spent 6,000 minutes exercising, eaten 100 locally sourced meals, 100 zero-waste meals, and diverted 300 plastic containers from ending up in landfills. That's amazing! Before I initiated this project, I felt like I was facing the threat of climate change alone. This made me feel discouraged and powerless to make a difference. But today, looking at the impact we have made in only 6 weeks has empowered me to have hope. Hope for the sustainable future that we can create when we work together. I'd like to return to a quote from Ronald J. Sider, one that we took inspiration from at the very beginning of this eco-challenge. He says that no one can do everything, but everyone can do something, and together we can change the world. Through our collective impact, we have demonstrated the truth to these words. Though our eco-challenge concludes today, the change that we started doesn't have to stop here. The UU Eco Challenge 2020 website and our Drawdown Eco Challenge page will stay up and running for anyone who wants to join in or continue to strengthen the impact we have made. But for today, let us celebrate our success by hearing directly from our fellow participants and what we have empowered each other to accomplish. Thanks so much to everyone who contributed.
I took on the UU Eco Challenge 2020 and I took action by composting again. I've composted in the past, off and on before, but I needed this challenge to really get a kick in the pants and get started again. So thanks for that, Harley.
I took part in the UU Eco Challenge 2020, and it has renewed my resolve to save energy.
Hi, I took the UU Eco Challenge 2020, and I learned that eating less meat and more vegetables can make a big impact on my health and also the health of the planet.
Since taking part in the Eco Challenge 2020 at the Unitarian Universalist Church, I was inspired to increase my vegetable gardening. Got lots of lettuce and kale, some Swiss chard, there's radishes, beets.
I took on the Eco Challenge 2020 and learned that although I, quote, compost all of our food scraps, leaves, plant clippings, and small twigs, I do not follow through on all the necessary steps. I have not been combining those materials in the proper ratio, turning the compost pile frequently enough, or consistently adding moisture to the mixture. Now I will follow the guidelines closely in order to create the most nutrient-rich soil possible for our lawn and gardens.
I took on the UU Eco Challenge 2020 and I learned that I can help protect the environment by changing my diet and making more informed choices about the food that I eat.
I took on the UU Eco Challenge 2020 and I built a compost bin big enough for several families to share.
I took on the UU Eco Challenge 2020 and I learned that solar panels are more modular and create more job opportunities than pole plants.
I took on the UU Eco Challenge 2020 and learned that rooftop solar is not only good philosophy, it's a good investment.
I took part in the UU Eco Challenge 2020 and I learned a lot about tidal power.
Okay, so if you want to get around, you got a few choices. One thing is you can push your gas guzzler until you come to a downhill. That makes it a lot easier.
Or you can drive a hybrid or an all-electric car.
I took on the UU Eco Challenge 2020 and I took action by buying eco-friendly laundry detergent strips. They're biodegradable and are better for the environment because they use no plastic jugs, dyes, and phosphates.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Simon and I'm a part of Troop 1239 in Claridge, PA. I took on the UU Eco Challenge 2020 and I learned that there are many ways to create electricity, some of which include geothermal, tidal, and wave energy.
Hi, my name is Kylie Tabor and I'm Senior Patrol Leader of Troop 1239 out of Claridge, PA. I took on the UU Eco Challenge and I learned that no matter how big or small your impact is, it still helps.
I took the UU Eco Challenge 2020 and one of the things I learned about was different ways of harnessing energy from the tides and waves.
You know, I took on the UU Eco Challenge 2020, but really didn't know what to expect. I wound up having a great time with it, learning a lot. And a couple of my favorite things were learning about Kiva and actually participating in the microfinance as a microfinance lender, and I'll be watching this young lady in South America build her business, which would be a lot of fun.
I took on the UU Eco Challenge, and now I will stop buying sparkling water in returnable bottles and make my own.
The most important thing I learned from the Eco Challenge was that there's always more that I can be learning.
As a child, I was a relentless tree climber. There was nothing I loved more than scrambling up a tree trunk to the lowest branches and then pulling myself to greater heights, branch by branch. I would methodically and strategically work my way to the highest point that I could, and then I would look at the world from this new vantage point. The old apple tree in my backyard became a place of refuge for me whenever I needed to shift my perspective. So much that in time, my legs and arms could automatically find their way up to my usual perch. One day, the trunk and branches were slippery because of a recent rainstorm. As I followed my usual path up the trunk and into the limbs, I suddenly lost my footing. Desperately, I tried to grab hold of branches on the way down, which slowed my fall, but didn't stop it. I landed in a heap on the ground beside the trunk. Fortunately, I didn't break any bones, but I still have a scar on my leg as a reminder of that day. While that wound was still healing, I was too afraid to resume my climbing adventures. But as time went on, being on the ground felt so limiting, as I could not get the same wide view of my neighborhood. Eventually, I decided this broader perspective was worth the risk and started climbing again, though I did so with a little more care and attentiveness. And isn't that why we come to church? Here at First Unitarian, we can gain that broader perspective if we are willing to exert ourselves with care and attentiveness.
Good morning, everybody. Please join me in singing our next hymn. As you all know, we all have a long walk ahead of us. Here is some juice for the journey. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on walking, keep on talking. Gonna build a brand new world. Ain't gonna let no policeman turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no policeman turn me around. Keep on walking, keep on talking. Gonna build a brand new world. Ain't gonna let no white supremacy turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no white supremacy turn me around. Keep on walking, keep on talking. Gonna build a brand new world. Ain't gonna let no racist president turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no racist president turn me around. Keep on walking, keep on talking. Gonna build a brand new world. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn
I invite you to center yourselves in this moment. Breathe deep. Place your feet down, your body in a position in which you can focus your inner energies, calmness to attention as we enter into this time of prayer. Spirit of love and life, we who are gathered here come battered by the images of all the demonstrations, of all the statistics, of all the realities that confront our lives, our neighbors' lives. We who are here in this moment have the opportunities to open doors for our hearts to be opened to the fullness of the vulnerability that we as human beings exist in. For us to thrive, Spirit of love and life, remind us in this moment that our shared power comes out of that recognition of vulnerability. May we be in touch with the deepest fears and the highest hopes, not just of our own, but with open eyes and hearts and ears to the voices and the issues which are rippling through our lives. For we are not on this planet alone. We are not as spaced out physical distancing from each other as may still be happening. We are not separate from one another. Indeed, may we be reminded of our interconnectedness and the power that comes from being united in our understanding that we are indeed connected and powerful. Spirit of love and life, we also lift up in our prayers as we do every week. Our prayers for those who are emergency workers, for those who are returning to work somewhat afraid of what exposure may happen, to those who are recovering from illness, or those entering into new diagnoses and illness. Our hearts reach out to those who have been lacking sleep, with worry over jobs, over food, over all the things which are affecting with many disparities, large portions of all of us. May we remember in our prayers those who are plugging along in grief, those who are feeling disconnected, those who are feeling overwhelmed. May we also be heartened by the things that are out of our control and yet give us sustenance, represented in the sunshine breaking through the clouds, the fresh air breezes blowing through our lives, the many ways in which we experience the benefits, the glories of life around us. These, in the prayers of our hearts, we hold now for this moment, in the names of all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind. Amen. Blessed be.
Your Life Matters by Kenny Wiley. Most of us Unitarian Universalists are here because we felt welcome here, at last. Some of us were too agnostic somewhere else. Some of us weren't vindictive enough somewhere else. Some were too working class somewhere else. Some were too lesbian somewhere else. We were too nerdy somewhere else, too introverted somewhere else, too gay married somewhere else. Many of us are here because this faith and the people in it affirmed, you may not be perfect, but your life matters just the same. That's what's on the line now. Through racism and posthumous victim blaming, through silence and bullets and indifference and vilification, Black people are being told that our lives do not matter, or that they matter only conditionally. Black lives matter if we are educated, if we are respectful, and sometimes not even then do our lives matter. Right now, we as Unitarian Universalists are being called to act. We are being called by our ancestors, those who demanded that we help end slavery, that we fight for suffrage, that we join the struggle to end Jim Crow, that we listen to and honor Black power. Lydia Marie Child and William Lloyd Garrison are calling us. Lucy Stone is calling us. Fannie B. Williams and Frances Ellen Harper are calling us. James Reeb is calling us. Viola Liuzzo is calling us. Guided by that enduring, unfulfilled promise of the belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, ours is a faith that has said, or worked to say, to those who have been marginalized, you are a woman and your life matters. You're gay or lesbian and your life matters. You're transgender and your life matters. You're bisexual and your life matters. You have a disability and your life matters. You were not loved as a child and your life matters. You struggle with depression and your life matters. Right now, we are being called by our ancestors, by our principals, by young Black activists across the country to promote and affirm. You are young and Black and your life matters. You stole something and your life matters. I've been taught to fear you and your life matters. The police are releasing your criminal record and your life matters. They're calling you a thug and your life matters. Our ancestors, principals, and fellow humans are calling on us to promote, affirm, with words and deeds, Black Lives Matter.
Thank you, Stacy. I'm glad to be here in the pulpit for yet another time as your interim associate minister. On this occasion of entering into a new theme month where we open doors spiritually together, in this occasion of a recognition of LGBTQIAP+ Pride Month, on this occasion of recognizing the demonstrations, protests in our society to once again say, Black Lives Matter. And so on this morning, I present to you the idea of Stonewall and now. Who knew? Who knew that we would be coming to this point as a society in which we were talking about opening doors quite literally and going back into society? Who knew that we would be talking about the ways in which we have all been isolated, enclosed, shut off from one another? It's a little easier to understand the fears of folks who are shut in, cut off, orphaned, disowned, when we ourselves have had some taste of what it is to not be able to mix and mingle freely with our support systems. Back in 1969, the end of June, when the Stonewall riots were occurring, the idea of a pride festival, pride marches, colorful gatherings of celebration were not on the minds of the people who were gathered at a bar, interacting with those they liked and were most comfortable with, who were then, well, subject to whatever the police wished to do with them. Because here in New York State, it was the law that such establishments were not allowed to serve what we know as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer folks. Just wasn't allowed. Many of the folks had nothing to lose by being exposed. And that was part of the turning point at Stonewall. The folks who said, enough, do not take me, do not impinge on my rights and my freedoms, do not malign me because of something about me which I could not change. Many of the folks at Stonewall were the ones at the margins of society already, people of color, folks who had run away from home when their families were not accepting of their orientation or identity, folks who had trouble holding down jobs, finding housing. These were not the folks who had anything to lose other than what the police were already taking from them. The right to congregate freely, the right to go about their own business, the right to be out and about. I am wondering at this moment, as we are listening to the calls to hashtag remember her name, or remember his name, how many of us once again need to be reminded of Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, as maybe some of the most visibly remembered of over 50 years ago, but also to look at the photos and see others who were there in the moments, who turned out day after day to continue demonstrating, rioting, to say no more. Pay attention, we say no more. We're in that moment. We're in that moment now, in which once again we see demonstrations and riots around the death at the hands of society of a Black person. No, not just one. The video hasn't been released yet for Tony McDade. What about some of the other names? Iana Dior, people brutally attacked. When this trans person was attacked in Minneapolis, it caused this outcry from the community. This was published on Out.com, originally published by Abounding Prosperity. We're saddened, angered, and disgusted by the images in the recent video of another Black transgender woman being brutally attacked by a mob of Black men and women at a convenience store in Minneapolis. It's not enough to talk about and demand the change we want to see if we are not willing to also be the change we want to see. It is not acceptable for groups of people to stand by and watch and record and do nothing. All Black lives must matter, including Black trans lives. We watch as layers upon layers of identities lead to, well, permission giving, prejudices, the outright systemic work to put down others. And who gets to define the otherness? Our own society, our own groups. Each one of us who is a taxpayer, who elects the officials who have ruled against review systems which might have more accountability in our society for the voices of a public which is beginning to say, enough, no more. It's very difficult to be a good Samaritan in the mix of all that's going on. In the LGBTQ news stories, there's a story of the police who shot at a queer bar where the staff members had been giving first aid to protesters. It's very hard to understand how those who are seeking to peacefully give aid might be, well, abused themselves by the powers, which up to that point, maybe depending on color of skin, those people assumed they would always be privileged and protected. But their acts are considered revolutionary, where acts of kindness are seen as aiding and abetting lawbreakers, including those who did not get word of curfew timing before they had left their homes to go out and join protests. It is said that ignorance is no excuse for the law. But the law, as it has been enforced, we know, has bent excuses and methods. Stonewall, more than 50 years ago, is identified as the moment of turning. How discouraging must that have been for those who had been participating in peaceful marches with the Mattachine Society, or had stood up to authorities and bars in other places and locations other than New York over the years, who had worked tirelessly to try to say no more beating up, killing, dragging, jailing people just because of who they are. How discouraging it must be to finally get to see something labeled Stonewall as the turning moment. It's the same thing with Black Lives Matters. In some of the reports that I'm reading, why are we not talking about Breonna Taylor, the Black EMT killed by police in March, weeks before George Floyd's death? Hashtag say her name. Do we forget the names of those who had died before? What do we do when again and again names and incidents are forgotten? In the case of remembering Stonewall, it wasn't so much that over the years we forgot Stonewall. Indeed, what became our Pride festivals of today grew out of the timing of that event in late June of 1969, and so it is indeed enshrined in our memories. But we forgot the people of color, the Marsha P. Johnsons, the Sylvia Riveras. As has been said, history was whitewashed. We forget, but not all of us. The histories are lost, but not quite, and are revived. How will we talk in history about the time that we have just come through? Will we forget the names? Will we only pay attention to the images that were in videos or released body cam footage? I don't think so. I do feel like right now we are in a time in which we recognize something has to change. Something is so different. It has reached into new layers, but we are in pain because we are still othering. We are in pain because we wanted it to have been over before. We are in shock. We are in sadness. It's also Pulse anniversary this week. Will we see some images posted of the people of color who are mowed down by yet another American with a gun? Maybe so. Have we been inured of the images? Because that was so 4 years ago. We can't be. I ask you to please open yourselves to the vulnerability that makes you human. Please be someone who feels. Show up if it is safe for you to do so. Speak up for those who have no voice, to call attention to the voices, especially now, of the Black people, straight, queer, or other, who speak again and again. Please be the person who understands that it is not weakness to be kind, and it is not strength to be violent, and it is not our principle that the authorities that we empower by our laws and our tax payments do other than what we wish to hold our society and the people in it with respect. Our life goes on. Above the lamentations that we hear, our grief goes out to those who are in pain for the loss of a loved one, to the violence of the demonstrations and the police actions. We've got to keep on a-walking, keep on a-talking, gonna build a new world. Thank you. Thank you to those who showed up. Thank you to those who made signs. Thank you to those who wrote a letter to the editor or engaged in some way. I hope that our religion sustains you. The forebears mentioned in our reading are remembered as courageous as we must be as we go forward. Let us remember Stonewall was a riot, not a pride festival. Let us remember that Black lives must matter. Let us remember that we don't matter if there is anyone around us who's told they don't matter. Make a difference. Blessed be all.
Please join me in singing our next hymn, How Can I Keep From Singing?
My life flows on in endless song, up of earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn, that is a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Our offering this morning is split with the Gateway Music Festivals, and we will show the card now and also at the tail end of the service. You are not rushing to give at the moment while our service is still going. But for those who don't know, we ask that you support Gateway Music Festival's important mission to connect and support professional classical musicians of African descent and enlighten and inspire communities through the power of performance. I ask that you give generously in the way in which we split with the First Unitarian Church of Rochester and this shared collection with Gateway Music Festivals. And then I also ask of you invitation to figure out your way in this world. If you were to list your greatest values, would it be among our Unitarian Universalist principles of being involved in democratic action? What does that look like to you? I mean, not only the congregational meeting following this service, although that is a very clear representation. I mean as well, in what ways are you engaged with what's going on with your deepest principles to listen to others, raise their voices of pain? In what way, as you scan the news this week, are you listening for the voices of Black people being lifted up? In what ways do we look at our theme of being opening doors together spiritually, in knowing that what we do out there and how we act with another person either deliberately shuts the door on that person being able to be open and vulnerable in that moment, or being able to be in human connection? This is what I'm asking you this week. Monitor the quotes. Listen to the voices of Black people. Lift those voices. If you're going to forward a tweet, are you forwarding those folks? And engage in a way that uplifts your principles in opening a door spiritually together. Thank you. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And so I bless you on your journey. Blessings on your journey as you go out or stick around for a moment. But blessings on your journey in life. May you keep on walking, keep on a-talking, and keep on building a new world.